And for more on the Democrat divide and how this will play out in Congress, let's bring in NewsNation political contributor and former Office of Management and Budget Director Mick Mulvaney and former Democratic Mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you so much for joining. Mayor, I am going to start with you. Your party in D.C. deeply divided over this government funding bill. How do Democrats now move forward?
Well, Hannah, we've got issues, so we have some real things to resolve. But I also want to say this was a kind of impossible choice. Let's be honest about it. As a result of the election, we were dealing with a Senate reality where it was going to be a bad outcome no matter what. Now, where was the mistake? I would say it was in not setting the stage properly. This is where the Democratic leadership could have said, hey, everyone, this is what we're really dealing with. And if we're going to make this compromise choice to buy into this bill, it's simply so we can live to fight another day. And it's because we want to keep all the pressure on Donald Trump and Elon Musk for what they're doing to this country, what they're doing to the economy, what they're doing to working people. That would have been a coherent message to get people ready for sort of the shock of having to accept this thing. Look, this has happened now. Now the real question is, can Democrats get back on the offensive? Because there's a lot to work with. And I think a lot of Americans think what Trump and Musk are doing is extreme. So I chalk this one up to, it really is, it's a bad situation, but it's one we got to put past us and now get on the offensive.
Well, you both work directly with New York Senator Chuck Schumer. Mick, let me ask you, was he put in an impossible situation here?
Probably. Keep in mind, I think, generally speaking, Hena, the Senate knows more about how the government works than the House does. It's just by virtue of the institution. And I think Chuck Schumer knew that if the government went into shutdown, the Trump administration would have tremendous authority to declare a bunch of employees essential versus non-essential. They could even sort of do this Doge hyped up a little bit during a government shutdown. I think it's one of the reasons that drove him to vote the way that he did and bring other folks with him. I think the mistake the Democrats made is not pre-planning. I agree with Mayor de Blasio on that the House and the Senate probably should have gotten together and said, look, let's all do the same thing. Either we're all in or we're all out or we're all voting our own conscience or whatever. So this is an unforced error politically, but I think it was a very difficult situation for Chuck Schumer either way, given the control that the Trump administration would have had over the government during a shutdown.
Mayor, some say the Democrats are suffering from a leadership vacuum. Do you agree with that?
Oh, by definition, yes, Hannah. I mean, look, I also want to note, and I agree with Mr. Mulvaney, that the fact is, if this shutdown had happened, many people believe the court system would have been out of commission. The court system is someplace where Democrats have actually been very successful in pushing back a lot of Donald Trump's policies. So that would have just made matters worse. But to the leadership vacuum, yeah, by definition, we obviously are a party that does a lot better when we talk about kitchen table issues, health care, the needs of working people. Like in the election in 2024, we veered away from that. And we lost. And, you know, it was a devastating loss, but it wasn't that big a loss, if numerically speaking. This was an election that could have been won. I think this is crucial, Hannah. I think if Democrats had shown empathy for working people and what inflation was doing to them, the fact that they felt a lack of hope for themselves and their families, if Democrats had spoken to that and actually talked about, hey, we're going to lower health care costs, for example, we could have won that election. We still can get back on that message. But a lot of I believe the donors and the elites in our party stand in the way. I think you're going to see a much better message coming out of the Democratic National Committee now with Ken Martin as chair, who's from the Midwest, who's from the grassroots, who knows how to talk about working people.
I do want to talk about the economy in a moment. But, Mick, how does the GOP build off this momentum as Democrats are struggling to get on the same page?
Look, you have to realize in Washington, D.C., that the pendulums swing. I remind my Democrat friends that back in 2008, my Republican Party was in much the same condition that Democrats are today. And 2 years later, without a named leader of our party, we had the Tea Party wave. We took 75 or so seats in the House. So pendulums can swing very quickly in Washington, D.C. While the Republicans have got the momentum now, I think they need to go ahead and start pushing hard on the one big legislative priority they have. The Trump administration is doing a great deal during the executive branch using executive authority. The big legislative agenda focuses around the tax extensions, tax cuts, and so forth. I think that's what they need to be pressing, and it is what they're pressing.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.